ready?
Yep, 6:30.
We will now call to order the meeting of the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees Business Meeting. We are here at the Administration Building. It is Tuesday, April 16th, 2019, 6:30 p.m. I would like to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We would like to start tonight with Kelly McCullum to share a little bit about Head Start and early childhood. Kelly.
We're going to talk about our Title I preschool this evening, and I am thankful to have Mrs. Amanda Cranfill and Mrs. Mira Gibbs, classroom assistant. They are our Maplewood team for Title. They are absolutely wonderful. I think it was this time last year we were deciding whether or not we were going to do this. It was an idea, and over the last year it's just flourished. And so I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to let our preschools grow and shine this year. I have a few things to show you on the smart board, and I think you'll just be as excited as I am every time I go into the classroom. Just a second. A little technology issue with our sound as we tried to transfer this over into Google, so I'll just kind of talk through it. Miss Amanda and Miss Mira put this together, and it kind of showcases in a very brief snapshot all that they do within their day with our Maplewood Title preschool children. So in the beginning, of course, we work on routines and procedures. The first couple of weeks were spent building relationships through play and planned activities. And the pictures don't do this classroom justice. If you ever have the chance to visit this particular preschool classroom, you would just be mind blown. We also spent time practicing our commitments, routines, and procedures. Mrs. Cranfield, would you like to explain what those might be?
Up top there we have anchor charts, and on those 2 anchor charts where you see photos, one is AM and one is PM because it's a split class, and that tells them the routine. We talked about those at the beginning of the year, and there's also pictures of them doing that. It's actual pictures of them, so that then they can recognize what they're supposed to do. Even though they can't read, we wrote the words there for literacy, and then we have photos of them. And then there's I tried to draw a little guy there showing how we should be on the carpet, and they named him Tom. Yeah, it's like a little messed up. And then there's a chart of how we should color or draw what would be best.
It's pretty good.
So one of the best parts of about going into Mrs. Cranfield's room is all of the interactive friends that we may find in there. Her class finds things on the playground and she just takes it and they just go with it. It leads them into very interesting conversations and places. They've had spiders, they've had lizards, they've had all sorts of interesting creatures that they've learned about. And later you'll see some worms that are in the classroom. We have also welcomed other friends into our room that we have found on the playground. So they're bull jumping spider and they're praying mantis. The children love interacting with these little critters, and they are getting pretty brave about picking different things up. We have tried to make as many hands-on learning experiences in the classroom as we can. Some of our most fun were dishwashing, space, gardening, the Arctic, D is for dog, and the seasons. So you can see how creative and interactive. Right now there's a farm unit going on. Here I made a tractor, there's real dirt and tools and just anything hands-on that will let them have that experience in the classroom. On Wednesdays, we STEM. Every Wednesday is an exciting time in our class. We use this day to think outside of the box and learn by experimenting. Some fun things we have learned through STEM are what sinks and what floats, how to make different colors, what makes things grow and how to grow them, and how the rain cycle works. Loose parts. Mrs. Cranfield, you want to talk about your favorite thing?
Loose parts is my favorite thing. They're items that are versatile, that children can use in many ways, not just one. I still like the plastic toys. There's lots of beneficial things to them, but as loose parts, they can be used in a variety of ways. So, for example, the top two pictures, we were talking about self-concept and self-identity those first few days. And so they used yarn, wooden rings that used to be curtains, rocks, old manipulatives that somebody donated, math manipulatives I found in the teacher's lounge, and I grabbed those up, and I provided paper circles, and they looked at a mirror and made their own face and made sure they found each feature. And then down in the middle on the very left, those are from the same huge box of manipulatives I found in the teacher's lounge. And they were building structures to see how many people or animals they could hold on that structure. And they were figuring out, I had too many columns, I didn't have enough columns, this was too heavy, this wasn't heavy enough. So they're really exploring different concepts when they do that with their manipulatives. And then there's even some that have made letters with them, made animals down there in the right-hand corner out of our leaves. They made animals, our math table. So they really explore, and they figure out so many more things with the loose parts than just providing, a counting peg that you put the coins in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it counts itself. So that's why I really enjoy the loose parts.
So if you have loose parts, she's accepting donations.
The weirder the better, as I always
Yes,
say.
And thank you to our amazing learners for teaching us as much as we teach you. And like I said, we're so thankful to have both of them in this program. I learn something every time I walk into that classroom. They truly are the language they use with the children. We say that children in poverty hear 30 million less words by the time they're age 3 than their like-minded peers. And I think this gives us the opportunity to close that gap, just the things we hear. So now I'm going to give you a short chance. I know we're tight on time to hear a few things that might be going on in the Title preschool classrooms. So I walk in today and there's a big tray of soil and live worms, and here's what we have.
What's wrong with it? Because he's trying to get out? Yeah. He's trying to escape. Where do you think he's going? I think he's going he wants to get on the computer. Oh, did you just save the worm? Did you save the worm? Good job. What do you want? Are those? Worms? Can you pick one up and show me? It's not time to pick them up though. Wobble around. What is that? What are you looking at that through? The magnifying glass. What do you love about preschool?
I love tracing everything.
Tracing things? What do you trace? Do you trace your name?
Yeah, and I do my letters and my numbers.
Your letters and your numbers? Wow. What else do you love?
I love playing.
Do you play with your friends in preschool?
Yeah. I play with baby.
Some of these videos are from our Grandview class as well. Miss Tara Mitchell is the classroom teacher, and she had another commitment tonight. So they are making boats in her room and talking about sinking and floating.
Is a boat floating?
So they were experimenting.
Is it? Oh, you booked your sale out. Macy, you can put yours in. Macy's is floating. Yours is moving around in the water, isn't it? So do you think yours will float? Dixie, put yours in.
So I'm happy to send you this link and you can watch some more cute preschoolers on here. And I know there are a lot of really interesting things going on. I think our goal was to have 2 preschool classrooms to get our children ready for kindergarten, and the language-rich environment that we're providing is definitely helping us get there. So I want to thank both of them and thank Mrs. Tara and her classroom assistants as well. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy, for light. Okay, moving on. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
I so moved.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now it's time for patron comments on agenda items, and we have 3 patrons. If you don't mind, I'll just read them in the order. I don't know if anybody had a preference to go first, but Catherine, good? Let's see her, but I know she went in.
Do you want me to come up there now?
Yeah, can you come up to the podium? Do you mind? Or would you?
I just had a question about magic moments. I don't know if you're going to answer it later. I don't know. I've never done a blue sheet. So.
I've never done a blue sheet. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Do you want me to go up there?
It's your comfort level. It's fine. We can hear you. You've got a good voice, but you can come up front.
I might be going to answer this anyway.
Okay.
Because I know it's on the agenda. But my question was just, what do you foresee the building being used for should Magic Moments be closed?
Okay, that's a good question. We are going to have a discussion, and unfortunately, it's closer to the end of the action items,
Yeah,
so we
so
go
I
through the
can
consent
wait.
agenda pretty quickly, but
We'll discuss it then.
yeah, I think we're going to have a whole
Okay.
discussion about it. So if you're comfortable waiting, we'd like
That's
to have you.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Next one is Ann Jesse.
Hello, good evening. I'm here as a concerned parent regarding Magic Moments. I've had 2 children walk through the doors at Magic Moments. Keaton has flourished just since August, and I feel like it would be beneficial to keep the school, the daycare open so that more kids could benefit from this program. Like I said, Taylor, my oldest, done great. Keaton has done even better. I think he has learned so much. The staff is wonderful. You feel like family when you walk in that door. And I think that is important, and I think that's going to be hard to find anywhere else we go. So I just hope that you guys will consider, keeping the doors open and allowing us to utilize the facility.
Thank you, Ann. Next, Matt Bills.
Mine's Magic Moments as well. Would you like me to wait until?
Well, now is the time for patron comments. If you have a question too, we will make sure to address that at the discussion portion,
Okay.
but,
I'll give a comment and I have questions later too.
okay.
It's kind of like Ann. My daughter Meredith started Head Start just this year. My wife had stayed at home with the kids for years, and she had to find something to do. You know what I mean? The kids needed to go somewhere to kind of get a different look on things and get a different perspective. I mean, there's only so much you can learn in the house, and early childhood education, even at that age, is crucial to success later in life. I think we can all agree on that. And we looked at a lot of different daycare centers, a lot of different places, and even though we were going to pay a little bit more money, we knew that Magic Moments was the right place. I mean, the staff has been unbelievable for her. When she started there, she was barely talking. We were struggling to potty train, which is not really their problem, but it was a struggle. I mean, it was mom and dad every day trying to teach her things, and it's hard. And, we have a life to live ourselves, and we have jobs to go to. And you just can't find a place like Magic Moments anywhere else. And I never would have thought I'd hear myself saying that about one particular facility. But I mean, within months, she's using words that she's never used before. She's actually talking and communicating. Her attitude towards her brother has improved tremendously. She's learning stuff that, we didn't teach her. Caitlin and I are both educated people. We teach our kids as much as we can. But this is the only facility I've seen that actually educates the kids while they're there. To start that at such a young age is impossible to find. And I just really hope you will consider that investment in the young kids, because it starts there. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I didn't go to preschool. I went straight to kindergarten. And I was behind my peers from the get-go. I know that sounds silly, but I was behind my peers in kindergarten when I started, as far as socialization, as far as basic education. My parents taught me well. It wasn't like a basic fundamentals type thing, but they were learning things that I hadn't yet. It's just very important to me, and I know we're not going to find that anywhere else, and I know we're not going to find the level of care that we get at Magic Moments anywhere else. So I just hope you do consider that part of it and the investment portion of this. And I do have several questions, but I save those for later. Is that right?
If you're going to ask questions, you kind of have to do it now. There's another patron section, but that's going to be later, so
Okay.
it's probably
Well, I
a
have
good
several
idea,
questions
and I'm writing them down so we
Okay.
make sure to get
Whether
them.
you address the questions now or later, whatever
Yeah.
works. But I'd like to get a little more details as far as the structure of Magic Moments within Fayette County School Corporation. Because as I understand it, they operate somewhat independently as far as their budget goes. But obviously you all would know far better than I would about that. So I'd like to hopefully discuss that a little bit. I'd like to know a little bit about what the deficit actually is for Magic Moments. I'd like to know what the building will be used for if it is closed. I'd also like to know what has been evaluated as far as making this work. Because since I graduated college, I've been involved in running a business and the financial aspects of that. And I just want to know what's been evaluated, what options have been laid out to keep this operation running. Because I just, and this is all, small town talk, everything like that. But from what I understand, we're not talking about a lot of money as far as, in the grand scheme of things, as far as the entire Fayette County School Corporation goes. And I don't know that. That's why I'm asking. I'm not making any assumptions. I just want to know the reality of the situation and see what can be done to address that while still giving these young kids the chance they need. Because I'm very passionate about Magic Moments. I don't want my daughter to have to go anywhere else. She's thrived. A whole different, more intelligent kid. And I know that will help her later in life.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, I didn't have any others, I just had the three. We'll get through the consent agenda, and we've got action items, but we will be discussing Magic Moments during our action item portion of the agenda. Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes from the regular business meeting of 3/12/19, personnel report, retirements, resignation, leaves of absence, etc. Approval of the March 2019 claims, number 52703 to 53029. The disposal of surplus assets. The approval of donation of vintage video cameras to the Fayette County Historical Museum from CHS. And donations, a donation of $3,840.70 for Fayette County School Corporation Elementary Schools and $992 for each CMS and CHS for Red Ribbon Week. Seeing the consent agenda, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
Madam President, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the action items. Begin with our personnel report, recommendations for employment. Mr. Sikwa.
Thank you. First of all, our recommendations for employment for the classified staff: Jennifer Hill, Special Education Assistant at Grandview; Vanessa Willis, Interim Director of Magic Moments; Extracurricular staff, Kristen Day, JV cheerleading coach at the high school. Kevin Gibson, boys 7th grade white basketball coach. And Clay Hurd, golf coach at Connersville Middle School. And Ashley Mitchell, varsity cheer coach for Connersville High School. Also, as we do every year, the administration is requesting authorization to issue to support personnel, bus drivers, substitute teachers, and substitute custodians serving less than 12 months a letter of intent to reemploy for the 2019-2020 school year. And this is something we do every year at this time. And then finally, as we've done throughout the last year, when we evaluated different positions that need to be adjusted, we come to you to ask for your permission. We continue to have problems finding substitutes in certain areas. Custodian is one. On the back of the blue sheet, you'll see the chart that we've come up with that will give you an idea of what we're asking to increase. If you look at level 11 custodians, right now a sub-custodian makes $8.25 an hour. We're asking to move that to $10 an hour, as we are for some of the other positions you can see there. In the case of using students, we're recommending that be $9.25 an hour. So you'll see some increases there. Hopefully that will allow us to attract some more individuals into those areas that we need so desperately.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I would like to hear a motion to accept the personnel report.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Andy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion?
Mike, one thing I don't see on here, it says retired FCSE teacher long-term substitute consecutive 15 more days. I get that. There is no thing specifically addressing a Fayette County retired teacher that is subbing now. Is that going to be the same rate of pay?
It'll be the same. If you remember last year, we did an
increased that.
increase
Okay.
in substitute teachers, so we're going to leave that as is for right now.
So the people that are benefiting, the people without the degree went from 65 to 70?
Well, that's current, yeah.
Okay.
Their support staff subs are the ones that are really being,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
just a list of all of our substitute positions for clarity.
So what we tried to do is not disrupt the different levels that we have, so that's what we have put in there. Some of them have changed, some of them have not.
Is it anticipated that the raise in pay for the substitute support staff will generate more interest in those jobs?
Yes.
Okay.
Surrounding school corporations have increased some of theirs, and they've pulled some of our people away, and we just felt it was necessary, and that was one of the things we hear from the individuals when we're trying to attract them. You know, you're only paying $8.25, you know, so when we looked at that, we felt it was time to make a move and increase it.
Okay.
We're just playing catch up, right, Mr. Sir?
Exactly.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the elementary CMS, CHS, WCC discipline plans, bus conduct, FCSE code of conduct. Ms. Corsaro.
Thank you, Board President. Last month, I brought to you the drafts of all of the student code of conducts as well as the discipline plans, and explained to you that really we only had one significant change, and it was found in all of the books, and that was on the metal detectors. And that language was presented to you earlier in the year, and it was approved by our board attorney. So really, the only major changes is the addition of the metal detectors, other than some language changes that we added throughout the book, and those were all highlighted in yellow or red for your viewing. So at this time, I'm going to ask for the recommendation for the approval of all of the student code of conducts and handbooks for the schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to approve the elementary CMS, CHS, and WCC discipline plans, bus conduct, and FCSE code of conduct?
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to the recommendation of approval of quotes for the 2019 summer projects. Ms. Kellum Tollett.
Thank you, Mrs. Jacobs. I hope you found at your place this evening a revised request for you. As I indicated in my memo to the board, carpeting quotes were not available at the time we prepared this. There was some illness and he was not able to get them. So this evening, we are recommending the small chiller replacement at Fayette Central go to Johnson Controls at a price of $22,910. 4 boilers replaced at the Career Center by Johnson Controls, $192,671. Electrical panel upgrade at the Career Center to Element Electric, $89,775. A concrete drive at the soccer softball fields to Phelps Concrete, $74,685. A generator at Fayette Central to Leighton Wood at $33,220. And then for our carpeting, Fayette Central Sensory Room, $1,160. Frazee Student Service and Computer Lab, $5,323.86 to wholesale carpet. CMS, this is some tile work at the entry off of the office into the hallway and the 2 rooms across from that. It's my understanding that they have some tile already on hand at the middle school we're going to use. So this is labor only, $1,912. Eastview office and bath off the kitchen area and in the former break room. These are related to the restructuring of Eastview and Maplewood. It's $3,679.36. At Maplewood, we have the book room, the counselor's office, which is labor only because we're going to reuse the carpet from the art room. And in the art room, they would prefer to have tile. So in order, $4,100, $800 for labor only, $4,469 for the art room. These are presented for your consideration. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer, or Mr. Hensley, our Director of Facilities, is here this evening also.
Janie, on the roofing, that it's warranty work,
Yeah.
so can you explain it?
Yeah, when, what was it? 10 summers ago, 9 summers ago, we did several working roof projects with the Q scab. That was right when Mr. Perkins was leaving and I was coming in. Some of those were done around that time. So when Brian contacted Shamels to come out, they said these roofs are still under warranty. So they are going to work with who had the roofs? The Firestone?
Firestone is the manufacturer.
Firestone for that work to be completed under warranty.
That's great.
Janie, Brian, the concrete work, paving work, is that going to take us from the sidewalk out here all the way down to the soccer complex and then paving around it? That includes a driveway?
Yeah, so the existing road that's there now that's in gravel,
Right.
it's going to be paved 6
Good.
inches thick to accommodate delivery trucks that would come down to the concession area. And then the remainder of the concrete is going to circle around the east side of the press box and go all the way to the dugouts and all the way over to the visitor dugout. And the reason for that is that way we can reposition bleachers to move from softball, spin them around, and use them for soccer as well. So I know it's an expensive project, but it's very needed, and once it's done, it's done. We won't have to
No,
worry about
I
it.
support it, but I wanted to make sure that driveway, because I watch too many people, older people, especially grandparents,
Yeah.
having difficulty maneuvering that thick gravel. It's not the little gravel. So I was hoping we were going to get that paved, so
Yeah,
thank you.
It ties in from the sidewalk all the way down to the softball field.
It's gobbling up all of the money we have for land improvements and paving. We'll be able to maybe swing a little bit of striping in some areas, but that's it from the budget that was approved, so.
That's an accessibility issue, just like the
Right.
baseball area, so we had to take.
Well, and a liability issue.
Right.
I mean,
That's
I think
not
it's
a,
great what we're doing. I think the money's well spent.
that's not a fun path to walk on, at all. And a lot of the older people, myself included, walk in the grass in lieu of walking on that because it is so uneven.
There's some drainage work that needs done around that too.
Yeah, there's quite a few
So
puddles,
that'll be
yeah.
part of that.
Yeah, the drainage and the runoff, there's approximately 4 feet of drop from the top of the soccer field to the press box. So
Yeah.
part of that bid includes a retention area and then getting that water off of the concrete.
I think I'd just only otherwise acknowledge that we have at least, but I know 2 of those are local folks, and I know we always attempt to get bids from local people, so good to see.
And I appreciate it. We'll point out that all these projects came in under what the budgeted amounts were originally, which I think, having a competitive bid is important.
I think all of them are local except Johnson Controls, and those projects are so large that, well, particularly the Career Center, but, Elements out of Liberty, Phelps's from Everton area, we all know Donnie.
Layton
Woods from here,
Yeah,
so.
It's great.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And on the big projects, I mean, those were competitively quoted too, so we had multiple bids for those, so.
They have a
We got
sheet
the-
that they got, I just was summarizing the lowest.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jane.
thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, I would like to now entertain a motion for the recommendation of the approval of quotes for the 2019 summer projects.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to the approval of the Hall of Fame 2019 inductees. Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. President and Board. One of the yearly events that we sponsor, which is really a fun thing, is to recognize those educators who've been a part of Fayette County Schools. And a committee met, and I believe we had 10 or 11 nominees this year, and per board policy, we can select up to 5. So the committee selected these 5, and I'm seeking your acceptance that we place these individuals into our 2019 Hall of Fame inductee ceremony, which will be held early June, I believe. June 4th. Dr. Patricia Flowers, Kathy Hilbert, Russell Hodges, Robert Newton, and Byron Smith. So I present those folks to you for consideration.
Thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the Hall of Fame 2019 inductees?
Make that motion.
Thank you, Andy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion?
Will there be somebody representing Dr. Flowers since she is?
We hope.
We
We
hope
will be
to
reaching out
process.
to them, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Judd's reaching out to family,
Okay,
Byron's also deceased.
okay, I wasn't,
and his daughter is planning on
Good.
oh, great.
coming for that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Chartwell's contract renewal, Ms. Kellum-Toller.
Thank you, Mrs. Jacobs. Just as a little refresher, for a food service contract, you are required to go out to bid at least every 5 years, and then you may choose to renew that contract on an annual basis or go out for new bids at any point, but at the 5-year point, you are required. So my recommendation is to renew with Chartwells. This is the 3rd renewal of the 16-17 contract. All of the increases are spelled out in the initial contract, which are related to, consumer price index, food away from home, and the employment cost index for private industry, so that's all spelled out. We are required to submit these amounts to the Department of Education School Nutrition Division for their approval prior to bringing it to the board. And so I have done that and received their approval to bring this for your consideration. I do recommend approving, moving forward with our agreement with Chartwells for food service.
And I just want to commend Chartwells and with our Chef Charlie and under Rachel's management, it's been a great program to be a part of, so. All right, can I hear a motion to accept the Chartwells contract renewal?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Andy. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is the board member appointment to the Parks and Recreation Board.
Either of us? Yeah. Well, yeah, in your packets, a memo from me that will appoint Ann Kirshner as the representative for the Connersville Parks and Recreation Board. A little background for the audience, we had a gentleman appointed to that, and we're not aware of the requirements for this board, as was the librarian with their appointment. So we were notified that this had not been done correctly in the past with either entity, so we must appoint a board member to serve on that Parks Board. And so Ann graciously volunteered to serve on that, and her appointment will begin immediately after approval until December 31st, 2022. So.
And we'd also like to thank Tom Powers, who was the appointee of the school board. We did send a letter out to him thanking him for his service, and that his being off the board had nothing to do with any of his actions, that it was based on city ordinance. So with that,
I'd like to say, I'm an ex officio member of the board, which means I do not have a vote.
Actually, I think you do have a vote.
What they told me was I was ex officio.
Yes, but I think it's ex officio with a vote. Bob's not here because I know Bob Hanson has done some work on that. But
Okay, so I'm on another board. And it's not like I haven't been at the parks, and I think the Parks Department does a really good job with promoting things for the kids. A lot of really exciting projects are going on with the soccer fields and the new baseball fields being out by my house, so as in my infirmity, I can go across the road and watch the children play. But I think it's a very exciting time, and I'm really, my family thinks I'm crazy for volunteering, but I'm really looking forward to it, because there's a lot of really positive things that the city of Connersville and Fayette County are trying to do for the kids, as far as opportunities to play different kinds of sports and to be involved in that. And I think that for our community, this is such an important thing, and I've had a few years of experience at this, and hopefully my years of volunteering will be an addition to the board. It's another meeting, it's another night out. It'll keep me busy till 2022.
And we thank you for volunteering. Okay, can I entertain a motion to approve Ann's appointment to the Parks and Recreation Board?
Madam President, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mark.
You didn't want the job.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Lunch breakfast price mandated increases for 2019-2020, Ms. Kellen Tollett.
That's a little bit misleading, because
Okay.
we're going to kind of go off script.
Go for it.
We, in 2012, the board approved a mandated increase, lunch price increases and breakfast price increases that were being mandated by the USDA. However, they are now allowing schools to apply for waivers if they have sufficient cash resources and do not feel that they need to increase their prices. So my recommendation to the board this year is that we apply for a waiver and leave our lunch prices at the 18-19 rate. That includes the adults. That's my only concern, that they may take exception to leaving the adult pricing the same and require myself to come back to you to ask for an increase.
You can
in
separate them
adult.
out?
They can.
Oh, they can, okay.
Yeah. But based on information we've gathered from area schools, they have been receiving, some schools have even received 2 years of waivers. I suspect they'll be forced to raise their prices this year. But at the end of this month, we had over $587,000 in our food service program. Our parents, we don't want to talk about the debt that we have or the negative balances very much, but perhaps this would help some parents if we hold our prices the same this year as they were last year. So that's my recommendation. We're not recommending a la carte price increases either. We generally do that every 2 years, and it was done last year.
Jane, do we know how many adults participate in our lunch program?
I would have to get the numbers to be exact, but there are several administrators at the high school, most of them eat there. We also, Rachel has offered a program where the high school teachers can order and lunch will be delivered to their room or to a common area.
Missed that.
So some of them are liking that.
When I leave, they start delivering.
I go when I can. 1 week, a couple weeks ago, I went 3 days,
Yeah, but how is that on the exercise end? I think our wellness coordinator might have an issue with teachers
Well,
not
that
getting
was
up out of their
my comment
chair.
to Rachel too. But, by the time they get everybody out of their classroom and they would go down there,
Right,
they really
it's a
don't
time
have much
constraint,
time
yeah.
to eat. So I think it's a great
You skip line, is what
benefit.
you do.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's good for the teachers to show the kids that they eat the same food. That the teachers actually eat it too, because their palates are slightly different than ours. And if we show them that, I eat this too and I haven't died. So I think that's.
It's better than that.
I like eating at the high school. If they would deliver over here, I eat every day. But
And I like eating.
since I have to go over there, I'm not quite as often.
I like eating at the middle school, and I have ever since Chartwells have been there. So but I think it's important that the kids see the adults model that behavior, that it's the cafeteria food, because the general consensus of kids is cafeteria food is like, ugh. And it's not, it's very good.
It is very good.
It's excellent.
Thank you, Janie. It's good news to get. So I'd like to hear a motion for the lunch breakfast price mandated increases that are not really increases, hopefully for us this year.
I'll make that motion.
Thank
I'll
you, Andy.
second.
Thank you, Ann. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go on to Magic Moments operation, Mr. Collins.
Thank you. First, I want to acknowledge our Magic Moments staff members who are here. I appreciate their dedication to our kids. Last month, and I've shared in various communications with you information that Janie provides with the financial situation with Magic Moments. For calendar year 2018, the daycare expenses exceeded revenues by almost $30,000. In 2012, the district provided a no-interest loan to Magic Moments of over $42,000 to keep it afloat. To date, $10,000 has been paid back, so there's a little over $32,000 currently still owed to our district, and these are taxpayer funds. The preschool, in looking at projections for the costs for just the remainder of this school year through the summer, we're looking at a loss of about $4,000. So that's one area of concern where our revenue is not keeping up with our expenses. So we'll be at a little over $36,000 in the negative at the end of the summer. We will take that money out of our operations fund, which is really earmarked for our K-12 students. And that is probably the biggest concern that we have, is we're using taxpayer funds to supplement daycare. And when you hired me as superintendent, I think we look at those financial situations and we want to be sure we're using those tax dollars as they're supposed to be used. And we really should not ever be providing daycare costs for parents out of our operating funds. Additionally, I will say with Head Start having one class there, Head Start was paying out of their federal grant $8,500 yearly for administration costs. Really, that was a way to help keep cash flow going into Magic Moments. We are moving that Head Start class to Maplewood as we try to consolidate more of our Head Start programming, and that money will also disappear from the books for next year. And there was an amount of about $4,000 raised through fundraising that was paying costs for operations. And no organization should, a child care facility should use fundraising for Texas Roadhouse rolls, gift cards, things like that to pay the operating costs. That's not good business practice. So, as Janie brought these figures to me and I shared those with you, I think it comes down to the decision, what do we do? We have strict guidelines with this being a daycare facility operated by us, and with the level it is, that we have to keep the strict student to teacher ratios. Currently, our preschool is not full and is losing money. I think this makes it easier for me because we have so many great preschool programs that are free. You heard about the Title I preschool. Our plan is to add one additional class for next year, so we will have 3 of those classes. We also have our developmental preschool with we allow peers to come in to work with them. That's no charge, and then also our Head Start program. So through that, and working with Kelly, we felt that we would be able to provide free preschool for all but I think 2 kids who will be old enough at the start of the year. That made me feel a lot better that we were still going to invest, because I appreciate what you shared about investing in our early childhood programs, and I think we're doing more than we've ever done, and we're reaching a lot of kids. And I think a benefit to our parents is they don't cost you tuition, and that's a big plus. One other concern that a parent brought to me was, what do we do after the preschool time? So let's say we have a student in 2 sessions of preschool, what do we do from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock? We do offer transportation to daycares or grandparents' house as long as it's within our county, so we already offer that too. So I think that put that parent at ease when she realized that there were some options there. If it's okay, I'd like to answer some of these questions now.
I think that would be helpful.
Make sure I got them all, so I hope I did. What will happen with the building? Catherine asked that. We don't have a definite plan at this time. It will be used for programming. We don't want to be premature and say we're going to do anything with it, because then that implies that we've already made this decision. So we will definitely work with the board and look at our options, because it is a nice building, and we do want to make sure it impacts our kids in some way. So that's the best answer I can give you at this time on that. With the budget and the deficit, we are the We manage that facility. It's a property of our district. And we have to ensure that it pays its bills. And that's the situation we're in. We have to make sure that those hardworking employees dedicated to our kids, they get their paychecks every 2 weeks. So if we don't bring in enough revenue, we have to ensure that we cover the short, and that's what we've been doing. And we'll continue to do that as long as it's in operation, because that would not be right to the employees. But we can't continue to take school funds that are earmarked for our K-12 programs. We've done it, but that's not a recommendation I can continue to have, that we do that long-term. As far as the whole scope of things, if you've listened to some of these numbers, you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, we have over $500,000 in our food service budget. That will be spent because they have to continually buy new equipment, new refrigerators, freezers, new serving lines. So a lot of that money is spent for improvements to keep things up to date and repaired. So it sounds like a lot of money. We're going to lose some of that as the cost will still go up for food. But we felt that was a good decision to hold the prices because we do have a positive cash balance there. We're talking about spending millions of dollars on facility improvements. That's part of good maintenance. I think we have to do that. And if you look at all of our buildings, I think our board and our administration over the years has made a commitment to keeping our buildings clean and safe and up to date. And so I think that falls under our operations. But when you look at $36,000, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but it comes down more to funding daycare costs for parents. That's the piece that we should not be in the business of doing. And that's really in a nutshell those questions. I think I answered all of those.
Well, I think on the one about have you evaluated in terms of the options, and can you talk about that, because I know you met with the finance committee.
Yeah, and I'll say with Janie and Brian Hensley, they worked with our director who was there about trying to find ways to cut costs. And we tried to do that through our food service operations and then through our maintenance and cleaning of the facility as a way to try to stem the tide and to save some costs there with the operations. That was a little difficult sell probably, but these ladies have picked up the slack and tried to help keep the facility clean because there are stringent guidelines on making sure everything's clean, and I commend them for doing that, and that can-do attitude. Janie, have I missed something else besides that?
When Teresa Levi left as director, we did not maintain the same pay and benefit. When Alicia was promoted, we did not have a part-time assistant director. So over the course of time, while they've been losing money, we've tried to make in 5 changes in order to keep them profitable or very close to being in the black. So.
And the infant program was eliminated.
It was. That was eliminated at the time the loan was made from the school to the Magic Moments program. We decided we could no longer afford to take infants because the staff to student or child ratio is so low that it was just cost prohibitive.
So that was in 2012, I believe, if I remember from the history.
And I think those that are not familiar with governmental accounting may not understand. You have all these little silos of money, if you will, and they have to go for the specific purpose. So Magic Moments has its own fund within our total bank account. We have the education fund, which is related to the curriculum of pre-K to 12. We have adult basic education in a separate fund. We have the operations in a separate fund. I mean, the list is thus long of the various funds. And you can't just say, I want to move money from here to here. There are rules in a structure related to that. And so the only place, as you indicated, to go for this is to take money from our operations fund and put that in the Magic Moments fund. Well, the operations fund is their revenues comes from tax revenues. So then what you're doing is you're saying when Mr. Circla pays his property tax, a portion of that is going to go pay for someone's daycare. And that's not real palatable to those who aren't using it, so.
The only, I wanted to add a couple of things. Also, just for everybody to know, as this all kind of got laid out, Mr. Collins also called a meeting of the Finance Committee to look at any possible option, including increasing the fees that people would pay, whether that would even come close, and how much the fees would have to be increased. And this has been, unfortunately, an ongoing problem since 2010, 11, 12, in that time period, because I was on the board at that time. This is an emotional issue for for every one of you that are here for Magic Moments. It's an emotional issue for me. 2 of my kids went through Magic Moments. My kids have gone to daycares in this town. My kids were at Magic Moments when they first started by, operated by Mary Beth Bergen, who is no longer with us. Teresa Levi was her assistant. Mary Beth was at Delightful Days at St. Gabriel's. My kids went there, and when Mary Beth came over here, my kids followed. Teresa was her assistant at Delightful Days. I have a long-standing relationship with the public daycare. I didn't do preschool at the time. I don't even think there was preschool as part of daycare. And this has torn a lot of us up. It's torn me up. I've had conversations with several of you that are sitting there. I've burned up Scott's phone and had numerous conversations with him. Yeah, there is definitely a part of me that thinks, wow, it takes a village to raise a child. Maybe that is our responsibility, that we meet these fees, even though meet these obligations, even though that's not what the money's earmarked for. But I'm also a business person, and the fact that Magic Moments has been struggling on and off, not consistently, but on and off for over 6-7 years is a concern to me. And I'm very sensitive to the fact that there's not a lot of options right now that are preschool daycares. A lot of them are at capacity. I've been told this by parents. I don't know for a fact, and I know Kelly McCullum has probably spoken with some of you. I don't know the process, but will be or has been talking to anybody that chooses to with options. And again, administration is trying to make every effort providing bus transportation for your kids if they do end up going to a preschool through our school, and also to know that the Head Start decision to move that classroom wasn't based on Magic Moments or its financial status. We're trying to get as many Head Start classrooms together to make those run more effectively and efficiently, so our Head Start staff can all be in the same buildings with their Head Start classrooms. So that was already in the works and has been in the works for a while. And I think transparency is really important to all of you. And I think that some of you feel that there might not have been as much transparency early on, and I will agree with you, personally, as a board member. I will say that that's disappointed me. But I think we've learned a lot from this. So that's my opinion. I just wanted to share it with you. I don't know if any other board members have anything they wanted to add.
We were very concerned, and like Leslie, I've had kids in the daycare system for a very long time, and now I have grandchildren in it. And you have to front load it. You have to have good quality preschool for your children, and that's just a given. And one of the things that made the decision a lot easier for me was the fact that under Scott's leadership, we've taken Title I money that was used differently under previous administrations, and this is funding our free preschool right now. And where we had literacy coaches and things like that, which were very positive kinds of things. Now this money is going directly to the kids in this free preschool. And for most people, and I know it doesn't affect everybody, we are providing a very viable alternative to the daycare situation at Magic Moments. Clearly, there's going to be some people we may not be able to help, but I think we felt as if the majority of our students who were there would not suffer at all by being moved into a different program that we do have the funds to fund. And as you can see from what Kelly showed us today, those classrooms are really cool. And the kids will get a very quality education. And this is something that we can justify out of our tax base because that's where the Title I money comes from. So we're reappropriating money that we had that we can legitimately use to provide good preschool for the children of Fayette County. And I commend Scott for his use of the monies that we have, but daycare is incredibly expensive. And one of the things that I looked at, how much would we have to raise the rates? Oh, it was ugly. It was just, it would make it cost prohibitive to just so many people, because private daycare and preschool is cost prohibitive to a lot of people now. And it would have been very, very, very much so. And that might not have, it would have been sticking a hole in the, sticking your thumb in the dam, so to speak, because we have no guarantees that this would not continue. And it's nothing to do with the staff. They've done a wonderful job, and it's been a wonderful thing. But
a couple questions, Jeannie. One, the enrollments within Magic Moments, is it flat declining?
It has
comment on that?
been declining.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I will tell you, a couple of years ago, they were in a good spot. They had quite good participation in the daycare piece. And so they were very stable then. But it has declined. And based on the last data, you know, their enrollment can change. On the last information that I received, there were 26 kids, and 11 of those, whether they will go to kindergarten or not, will be eligible for kindergarten. So that leaves a whole lot of recruiting to be done if they were to even maintain where they are now, let alone go back to the enrollments they've had previously when they were very stable. So.
And then you look at that, if there are 15 kids returning in the daycare part, once you hit 6 kids in the 2-year-old, it's 1-to-5 ratio.
Because it's a licensed center, you have to keep ratio at each different age group, and the staff that we have is pretty much capped out with the number of children they have. So to enroll more kids, you have to hire another staff member to maintain ratio, which
So if
is
you
another
pick up
salary.
one more child that puts you over that tipping point, you hire an employee, but then you really need
More than that,
9
to
more
cover
to
the cost
get up
of
to
one more employee.
So that's the tough part too.
If you drop down, obviously the rates are going to increase too, because you have to make up for, make up for the one child that's not there. So if the other 10, if they stay, then they go up, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And because we're a school-based, we are automatically bound to those licensing regulations.
So we talk about earmarked, that word, K through 12, we do get state funding per student, is what you're stating, and then obviously going through Magic Moments, we don't get any money from the state, none. And so we're paying.
I believe there's one student who receives vouchers for their daycare expense. So that would be a state revenue because it's a subsidy for their daycare.
Sure.
So to be transparent, yes.
I think that, speaking to the crowd and people watching and listening, I don't think there's a single board member here or anybody on the administration that wants to shut down Magic Moments. Nobody has that desire. But we truly believe and know that it's an excellent daycare system. We feel that. I certainly have a 7-month-old daughter. Luckily my wife is lucky enough to stay at home and take care of her, but there may be a point in my life where we need to have daycare. And so I can kind of feel where you're coming from there. Excellent staff. Scott has got nothing but positive things to say. It has nothing to do with the quality of the daycare is there, because this is excellent daycare, and we wish that it could go on, but just looking at the numbers, we do have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer when you're operating at $30,000 loss plus the $32,000 that's owed back to the school corporation. That's a hefty sum, and we've kind of sliced and diced this from every angle we could possibly look at to keep this thing going. It's just not a feasible thing, it seems like. And I know there's not a lot of options out there outside of what we're offering in terms of actual true daycare. We've explored those options. I know Kelly is kind of working with some of the parents and trying to give some other options outside of Fayette County School Corporation. But, it's certainly nothing that we are looking forward to doing. I could say that. It's not what we wanted to do.
Okay, so I need to entertain a motion to, let's see, how do I want to word this? For the projection of the closing of Magic Moments.
Can I give you my recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to share, Leslie made a comment about the transparency. Sometimes things happen after the fact that we don't know, and I feel really bad about the part. I think unbeknownst to us, to Janie and me, we didn't realize some of the information wasn't being shared with the parent council. There's a council leadership, or maybe with the staff on some of the financial pieces by the previous director. And I think that, I don't know if that's exactly what you were alluding to, but we didn't realize that some of that wasn't being shared with how the situation was at times. So, and I'll take ownership of that, because it all falls under my leadership here. And I think in hindsight, that's how I viewed it, is sometimes it was a different picture being painted than what the actuality was, and I own that. So I just want to say that. What we're looking at is, based on the numbers that Janie ran, we have to pay out our preschool teacher through the summer, because that's the way it handles. So we would end the preschool program at the end of the school year as it normally would, May 29th, and then the daycare on July 31st. And I selected July 31st as we want to find places for our staff members who would like to remain as employees with Fayette County Schools. And in talking with Kelly, we're confident that they will all be able to work with our young children in other positions if they choose to do that. So I want that on record. We don't intend to terminate any of their employment unless they choose to go somewhere else. And I want to assure them of that. So my recommendation is to close operations effective July 31st with the daycare and May 29th with the preschool. That would coincide with the end of the school year.
Thank you. I won't repeat that. I did write it down. So I'm looking for a motion to close the operations of Magic Moments for the daycare July 31st and the preschool May 29th. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion?
With regret. With great regret.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we will now move on to discussion item approval of the 2020-2021 school calendar.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Scott.
That's okay. We are looking ahead to the 2021 school calendar. We already have the 2019-20 calendar approved, and it's posted on our website. So our committee met back in February and March to try to work on a draft for your consideration with the calendar for 2020-21. So when we look at that, we always have to work around the fair. That's a given. If you're the superintendent here, you work around the Fayette County Free Fair. So in looking at the start time of the school year, we also try to work around the calendar for the high school, where we try to keep our semesters balanced as closely as possible to 90 days. And so our start date for the teachers would be August 3rd, and then our students would return on August 5th. In September, we would continue with, October, we would continue with Parent-Teacher Conference Day, Professional Day on October 12th, and then our fall break would fall on the last full week of October, which would be October 26th through the 30th. One thing I want to bring up with November, if you'll recall this calendar for this next school year, our committee recommended we try a 3-day Thanksgiving break, and the board approved that. So the committee wanted to take a wait and see, let's see how attendance is, if we do have a 3-day break. So for right now, I'm proposing to you from the committee that we go with a traditional 2-day Thanksgiving break, and then we will reevaluate next year after we have some good data on how our student and staff attendance was with that shortened week. So that was a suggestion of the committee, and I was supportive of that. So we would rather add it than take it away later. That was the philosophy of the committee. So just wanted to point that out to you and to our patrons. Christmas break would be a full 2-week break. December 18th would be the last day before winter break. And students, this is a little bit different. We would bring teachers back on January 4th as a professional day work day, and then the students would return on Tuesday the 5th. So that's a little different from what we've done in recent years. So it actually gives the students a 11-day break instead of 10.
Yeah.
So I think they'll like that. In February, we build in our first snow makeup day. That falls on President's Day. So we hope we don't have a winter like this year again, but we're trying to build some days in that they're clearly marked for parents. Again, spring break will be the last full week of March, so it'll be the 22nd through the 26th. And then we are also designating Good Friday as a day off. And we're adding a snow makeup day on the Monday following Good Friday, which would be April 5th. So if we don't have a bad winter, our kids will have and staff will have a 4-day weekend. But we also have that as makeup day number 2. And then our last student day will be May 21st, which is a Friday. Graduation will be June 6th, so that gives us sufficient time to make sure everyone's ready for graduation. And then we went ahead and built in a whole week's worth of snow makeup days from the 24th to the 28th of May. So it's clearly marked on the calendar so parents know and our staff knows that we have a total of 7 built-in snow days, and we hope we don't use any of them. So it's a little different calendar, but I thought some creative thinking from our committee. Mark served on it as a board rep. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just think it's important that people know what we did with staying consistent with the last week of October and the last week of March, instead of having those float a little bit back and forth. So everybody, at least for 3 years, knows that we're always out on the week.
The last full week.
The last full week of October and the last full week of March. And then I think what Scott said, making sure that we're already lined up with some snow days so parents know exactly when those would fall, +5 at the end of the semester, second semester, so.
And hope we don't need more than that.
Right. But I thought it was really important that we stayed consistent with the weeks instead of moving them around, which we did have some discussion. So I'm real happy with the calendar that's being presented. There was about 30 people on that committee.
Wow, that's a big committee.
That's some good feedback from
Right,
parents and
good
staff.
feedback.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's just discussion this month.
Yeah.
So we'll have it presented to you for next month for approval.
Next is public comments. Person wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Seeing none, we will move on to report items. Superintendent discussion group reports.
We had some information from the NSBA,
NSBA.
but we're missing 2 members who were there, so I would ask that maybe we move that to next month.
Okay,
Because I know
sounds
they had some
good.
info to share, so.
Good. Principal directors report. Any principals or directors need to report anything? Okay. Director of Human Resources report.
I'd just like to report that last week I went to the TCID recruitment fair and talked to 5 very viable candidates for us. Just have to convince them that Connersville is the place to be. Tomorrow I go to Ball State and their recruitment fair, and right now we have 7 positions we're getting hopefully ready to fill.
Only 7?
At this point.
Yay.
Yeah. Director of Finance report. Tom Todd.
Thank you for your support on our capital projects and maintaining our food service rates. I will tell you in both the Senate and the House budget bills that are out there, it does include an increase in the basic funding. We will probably experience a decline in the complexity index piece. There are many philosophies on that, but I would prefer they would support the complexity index is based on our poverty. So, but that funding level is probably going to decline. It is fully expected that the preschool handicap funding will actually go up. I think the last time it's been 27 years since it was increased or something like that. So they are aware of the needs for funding of K-12 education. The teacher appreciation grant is expected to continue. There are some differences in the bills, but at one time there was conversation about cutting it. So the House has said they will be done on April 24th. The NRA comes to town later that week, so the legislators do not want to be downtown. So I believe the arm wrestling is going on, and we'll get some final decisions here in the next few days. So.
Okay. Assistant Superintendent report.
Thank you. First of all, Amanda, I'd like to compliment you. I love going into your classroom and all the exciting things that you're doing. I love watching all the things that you put on Twitter, so congratulations and thank you for all that you do for our youngest learners. Also want to compliment Kelly House and Kelly McCollum for the cross-country race that we had 2 weeks ago. 180 elementary runners. And they were there bright and early in the morning, and they did a great job, and we had a lot of parent support as well, and both of those gals are avid runners and really love the sport, and so it's nice to see that, catching on with our elementary runners as well. And then finally, I don't know how many people were able to make it to CHS's play this weekend, but it was fabulous. I've gone the last probably 3 or 4 years, and I'm trying to remember. Randy, do you remember what the title? I have this off. I can't remember the title of it. Scapino, yeah. And it was just, the kids did a great job. Austin Pate was the lead, and he was wonderful, and just a great group of kids and talent. And so just want to give them the recognition that they deserve. They don't always pull a large crowd, but boy, they do a great job, and they do it 3 days in a row. So compliments to your staff and your students.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
And I think our critic back here gave it really high marks on this tweet, didn't you, Mr.
Yes,
Judd?
it was
Forget
great.
exact wording, but one of the best you've ever seen. So a lot of talented kids, and I want to recognize our kids who, we have, I don't know how many events going on tonight, too many to keep track of, but I think being a well-rounded student, our kids who participate in extracurriculars, the arts, the sports, that makes them better students. And I commend our staff who works with kids daily. Talking with our athletic director this evening, just managing all that and keeping all those events going with Brent and Trent, it's quite a job. But there's a lot of dedication out there investing in our kids. Just want to share a couple of things on safety. At the school board's conference, safety was the big topic, and then also social emotional learning. You may hear at SEL, where we have to find ways to support children with that social emotional learning, and there's a lot of things that Megan Gilman, our special ed director, our administrative team, working with Kim on some ways we can better support our teachers and our kids. So there's some exciting things that we're developing that we'll be sharing with you hopefully soon. But I also want to talk about a couple of safety initiatives. The first is something that we've done this year with our local police and sheriff's departments, our active shooter trainings, and pay attention to the news, and I know you all do with the state legislature. There's a lot of discussion about a lot of safety type things. But I think that school safety is probably no more magnified. I mean, we're probably doing more now than we've ever done in a lot of ways. Trent heads that up as our key point person, and we are having active shooter drills in all of our buildings, I think for the first time to my knowledge, where our police departments are coming in after the kids dismiss and the staff's participating in that as well. So we've completed 4 buildings, I believe, at this point.
Can you share the philosophy behind that, about being prepared rather than sitting in a corner?
Yeah, and that's more of what we'll be sharing later.
Oh, okay.
But there's a program called Alice that Trent has actually signed up for the training to be a trainer for our district. But when Sandy Hook happened in 2012, I believe, the kids and teachers did what they were trained. And so they went to the corner of the room, locked the door, and turned out the lights. I heard one of the parents speak at a conference whose little girl was killed in one of those first grade classrooms, and the kids did everything they were supposed to do, and the teachers, but the problem was the shooter knew where the kids were going to be, and he shot out the side windows of the front entrance. They had the building locked, secured like we do. So from that, there's been a lot of discussion is we empower our teachers and kids to make timely decisions on real information. Maybe you don't go and hide in the corner with the lights off. Maybe kids hide in cabinets and under sinks and under the teacher's desk if they're trapped in that room, or if they're out in the hallway, have a rally point where they can go and meet the teacher away from the shooter. So it's really making lifetime decisions, trying to be more proactive than just locking yourself in a room and hoping that nothing happens. So it's a change in philosophy. A lot of districts have moved to that, and that's something we've been working on with our safety committee, which has representation from our local police and emergency responders. So that's one piece. And then the other is through a safety grant that Janie applied for, we are going to be using a visitor management system. It's called Raptor. And Trent and Brian Hensley visited Richmond and saw it in action, and I was familiar with it from a district where I've been that was looking at it when I was there, and it's going to be a place where a parent comes in or a guest comes in, and they will scan their government issue ID, their driver's license, and it will immediately run a check to see if they're on the sex offender registry. And then it also keeps track of who's in the building, and it prints off a little sticker with their picture, their name, the time they entered, the date, and then it helps us keep track of who's in the building and make sure that they exited the building. So though there will be a kiosk set up in each of our schools, we have ordered it, and we're going to start working on the training of our front office staff and administrators, and then that will be fully operational for next school year. So a lot of districts have gone with something like that, but it's another way to make sure we don't have primarily predators, sex offenders coming into our schools without our knowledge. So once a parent comes in and scans, next time they come in, they can type their name in, and it'll pull up. If they start typing their last name, it'll pull it up, and then they click on it, it logs them in, and then it gets the badge. So every time they come in, they'll have a little sticker badge that will identify them and who they are. So you'll hear more about it, but I just want to let you know we were able to purchase that through a grant, so that's exciting. So just let the public know some of the things we're doing to really try to keep our buildings safe and secure for our kids. That has to be a top priority, so thanks.
Thank you. For the good of the cause.
Just to reiterate, safety's always in the back of our minds. It doesn't go away. It can't go away, not anymore. So we're very diligent as much as we can be.
I wanted to, first, I just want to recognize the kids out there that don't make the news in our school system. The kids who aren't involved in athletics, kids that may not be in early college, high school, the kids who come to school every single day and work hard, but they're not the top rung on the ladder. They may be the bottom rung, but they may be somewhere in the middle. And sometimes we forget to acknowledge them. It's not that we don't think about them. It's not that teachers aren't working with them every day. They are. I think that it gets lost a little bit when we, in social media or newspapers, we're promoting, these stellar events. But we have hundreds of our kids out there doing wonderful things every single day. And so I just think that it's good for us to acknowledge that we've got some wonderful kids out there doing that work every single day, even though they may not be recognized through some special activity. So I want to do that. The other thing is, that was in the paper, and it's just bragging on a former CHS graduate, and that is Josh Long, who is the son of Joel and Vicki, and Vicki is a retired educator here in Fayette County Schools. Josh is a graduate of Connersville High School. He's now principal at Southside Elementary, or Southside Academy, which is a special education high school in Chicago. And he was awarded the Golden Apple Award, which is given out to only one principal, I believe. And it's not always a special ed person. It's somebody who's doing something unique. And there's been a wonderful video that's been circulating on Facebook, but I just think sometimes it's nice for us to remember those who came from good old Connersville, and that they're out there in the world doing some pretty important things. So I just want to take a moment to recognize Josh. Yeah, it was a nice article. Anything else for the evening? I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Everybody.
That's.
You're in the seat, you're in the right seat.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.